Hey there, welcome back. It's so nice to see you again in our calm little space of stories and soft dreams. Here we share relaxing tales to slow your heart and ease your mind. If you love peaceful nights and gentle words, don't forget to subscribe and stay close. There's always another story waiting for you. Chapter 3. The Fire. The bonfire was already burning when Maya arrived at the beach, flames casting dancing shadows across a circle of 20 or so people gathered on the sand. She'd almost talked herself out of coming at least 5 times, finding excuses in the safety of her room. Too tired, too cold, too much of an outsider. But something Helen had said at breakfast stuck with her. Loneliness and solitude aren't the same thing. One heals you. The other just makes you smaller. Maya wasn't sure which one she'd been choosing lately. She stood at the edge of the parking lot, watching the group from a distance. They looked comfortable together, passing blankets, sharing thermoses, laughing at inside jokes she'd never understand. The sight made her chest tight with something that felt like grief. When had she last belonged anywhere? Even in San Francisco, surrounded by colleagues and a boyfriend and a bustling social calendar, she'd felt like she was performing rather than participating. You made it. Sienna appeared beside her, wrapped in a massive parka that made her look like a colorful marshmallow. I was afraid you'd chicken out. Come on, I'll introduce you to everyone. Fair warning, they're nosy as hell, but they mean well. Before Maya could protest, Sienna had linked their arms and was pulling her toward the fire. The sand was soft and cold beneath Maya's boots, and the wind carried the smell of wood smoke and salt. As they approached, faces turned toward them, curious but not unfriendly. Everyone, this is Maya, Sienna announced. She's staying at Helen's place and recovering from the same thing all of us are recovering from, trying too hard at the wrong things. Maya, this is everyone. A ripple of laughter went through the group, and Maya found herself smiling despite her nervousness. Sienna proceeded to point out people rapid fire. That's Marcus, no relation to your ex, I assume. He runs the general store. Next to him is his wife Chen. She's a retired teacher. Over there is Jessie. They work at the marine sanctuary and know way too much about starfish. The guy with the guitar is Patrick. He's allegedly a musician, but mostly he just plays Wonderwall. That's Olivia and Sam. They're visiting from Portland for the weekend. The names and faces blurred together, but Maya appreciated Sienna's matter-of-fact introduction. No pressure to be interesting. No need to explain her credentials. Just, here's a person, here's another person, now you know each other. Someone handed her a blanket and gestured to an empty spot on a driftwood log near the fire. Maya sat, tucking the blanket around her shoulders, feeling the warmth of the flames on her face. Across the circle, Tom from the tide pools raised a thermos in greeting. Helen was there too, she realized, sitting between 2 people Maya didn't recognize, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen her at the inn. So what brings you to our little dying town? This from Marcus, the store owner, a man in his 60s with kind eyes and a graying beard. He said it without judgment, just genuine curiosity. Maya hesitated, unused to honesty with strangers. But something about the firelight, the darkness beyond the circle, made confession easier. I had a breakdown, or came close to one. I was working myself to death and calling it ambition. So I quit and drove north until I found somewhere quiet enough to hear myself think. She expected pity or awkwardness, but Marcus just nodded. Yeah, that tracks. I had a heart attack at 52. Ran a software company in Seattle, worked 80-hour weeks, thought I was invincible, ended up in the hospital with my kids sitting beside my bed, looking at me like I was already dead. He glanced at Chen, who squeezed his hand. Sold the company, moved here, bought the general store. Best worst thing that ever happened to me. The heart attack or the store? Maya asked. Both. Either. All of it. Marcus smiled. The heart attack saved my life by almost ending it. Gave me permission to choose differently. Turns out you don't need much to be happy. Just some good people and a reason to get up that doesn't make you want to die. Chen leaned forward, her face warm in the firelight. He tells everyone that story. But what he doesn't say is how hard it was at first. How he'd wake up at 3 a.m. panicking about revenue reports for a company he didn't own anymore. How it took 2 years before he stopped checking his phone every 5 minutes. Still working on that one, Marcus admitted sheepishly. Their honesty cracked something open in Maya's chest. Does it get easier? The not doing? Yes and no, Chen said. You learn to sit with the discomfort. To recognize that your brain is lying when it says you're wasting your life. That rest isn't failure, but you have to choose it every day. Some days are easier than others. Patrick, the guitar guy, strummed a soft chord. I burned out in a different way. Music industry. Session work in LA. Great money, creative bankruptcy. I was making jingles for dog food and playing backup for artists I didn't respect. And I came home one day and couldn't remember the last time I'd played music for myself. Like actually for joy. When did you remember? Maya asked. About 6 months after I moved here. I was walking on the beach and I heard this melody in my head. Just fragments, nothing complete. And I realized I wanted to chase it. Not for a client. Not for money. Just because it was beautiful and it wanted to exist. He played another chord, this one fuller. I'm not saying I'm happy all the time. But at least I'm making the kind of music I can live with. That counts for something. The guitar melody continued, soft and wandering, as others shared their stories. Olivia and Sam, the couple from Portland, talked about selling their house and buying an RV to travel while they figured out what came next. Jesse, the marine biologist, described leaving a prestigious research position because the politics were killing their love of science. Each story was different in details but similar in shape. People who'd reached a breaking point and chosen to step away rather than break completely. Maya listened, feeling less alone than she had in months. These weren't people who'd given up. They were people who'd given up on the wrong things to find the right ones. Or at least to keep looking. Your turn, Sienna said, bumping Maya's shoulder. Tell us something true. Maya stared into the fire, watching sparks spiral upward into the darkness. I don't know who I am without my job. I define myself by what I accomplished, how much I achieved, how indispensable I was. And now that I've stepped away, she paused, searching for words. I feel like I'm disappearing. Like if I'm not producing something, I don't exist. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like the group was actually considering what she'd said, taking it seriously. Helen spoke from across the circle, her voice carrying easily over the crackle of the fire. You know what I see when I look at you. Someone who's still here, still breathing, still brave enough to sit with uncomfortable questions instead of running back to comfortable answers. That's not disappearing. That's becoming. Becoming what? Whoever you actually are. Under all the performance and perfectionism. Under all the should-bes and supposed-tos. Helen smiled. It's scarier than disappearing, honestly, because you can't control it. You just have to trust the process. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back, but Chen saw and offered her a tissue without comment. The kindness of it, the lack of performance required, made Maya cry harder. She covered her face with her hands, embarrassed, but no one seemed bothered. Someone refilled her thermos with hot chocolate. Someone else adjusted the blanket around her shoulders. When she finally looked up, wiping her eyes, Patrick was playing something soft and melancholy. The fire had burned lower, and the stars above were impossibly bright. The ocean whispered behind them, steady and patient. "Sorry," Maya managed. "For what?" Janice said, crying. "Please. We've all ugly cried at these things. It's basically tradition." I once sobbed for 20 minutes about a sandwich I'd eaten 3 years ago that was so good I knew I'd never have anything that perfect again. That startled a laugh out of Maya. Seriously. Dead serious. It was a perfect sandwich. And I was going through some stuff. Jenna grinned. The point is, we've all been where you are. And we're all still figuring it out. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're just human. Later, when the fire had died to embers and people started to drift away in pairs and small groups, Maya found herself walking along the water's edge with Helen. The older woman moved slowly but surely across the sand, her hands in her pockets, her breath visible in the cold night air. "Thank you," Maya said, "for what you said earlier. About becoming. I meant it." Helen stopped, looking out at the dark ocean. "I've watched a lot of people come through my inn over the years. The ones who heal are the ones who stop trying to go back to who they were. They let themselves become something new instead. What if the new thing isn't as good as the old thing? Good according to who? Your old boss? Your ex? Some magazine article about successful women under 40. Helen turned to face her. Or good according to you, the real you, the one who knows what actually makes you feel alive. Maya didn't have an answer. She wasn't sure she knew that person well enough to know what they wanted. My husband Frank used to say that life is just a series of deaths and rebirths, Helen continued. Every time you outgrow a version of yourself, that version has to die so the new one can emerge. It's painful. But it's also how you become who you're meant to be. Do you believe in meant to be? I believe in choosing to be, which is different but related. Helen smiled. You're choosing this, Maya. Even when it's hard. Even when you're scared. That takes courage. They walked in silence for a while, the sound of the waves filling the space between words. Maya thought about all the versions of herself she'd been. The art student who loved painting, the junior designer desperate to prove herself, the senior director who'd sacrificed everything for a career that almost killed her. Which one was she supposed to become now? Maybe that was the wrong question. Maybe it wasn't about becoming someone she was supposed to be. Maybe it was about becoming someone she could live with. "I'm afraid," Maya admitted quietly, "of going back, of staying here, of making the wrong choice, of making any choice at all." Of course you are. Fear is just love wearing a mask. Love for your own life, for your own becoming. The question isn't how to stop being afraid. It's what you're willing to do even while you're afraid. They reached the rocky outcropping that marked the end of the beach. Helen paused, bending down to pick up a sand dollar. She brushed the sand off gently and offered it to Maya. "Keep it," Helen said. "Reminder that beautiful things survive by being flexible, not rigid." The ocean tumbles them around and they don't fight it. They just exist until they end up somewhere new. Maya held the sand dollar carefully, feeling its delicate weight in her palm. It was perfect and fragile and had somehow survived the violence of the ocean to end up here, in her hand, in this moment. "I don't know how to be flexible," she said. "None of us do. Until we have to be." Helen started walking back toward the fire, where a few stragglers remained. "Give it time. You've only been here 2 days. You don't have to figure everything out right now. You just have to figure out tomorrow. Then the day after that. Eventually, those days add up to a life." Back at the inn, Maya stood at her window with the sand dollar on the nightstand beside her terrible painting. Outside, the town was dark except for a few scattered lights, quiet except for the ocean, simple in a way that terrified and comforted her in equal measure. She thought about the people at the bonfire, their stories of breaking and rebuilding, their honest struggles, their refusal to pretend everything was fine. They'd chosen something different, something smaller by conventional measures but bigger in terms of actual living. Could she do that? Could she choose small and meaningful over large and hollow? Her phone buzzed in the drawer. She ignored it. Tomorrow she'd deal with whatever it was. Tomorrow she'd figure out the next small step. But tonight, she'd let herself be someone who went to a bonfire and cried with strangers and walked on the beach with a woman who understood that healing wasn't linear. Tonight, she'd be someone who was becoming. And maybe, eventually, that would be enough. Maya climbed into bed, the sand dollar cool against her fingers where she held it. Through the window, stars wheeled overhead in their ancient patterns. The ocean breathed. The world continued. And somewhere inside her, something that had been holding on too tight finally began to let go.